Right. So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 103rd episode of Wednesdays for Waste Warriors. I'm so happy to welcome Aditya Siroya from, he's based out of New York right now. उनकी सुबह है, हम लोगों की शाम है. And he has accepted our invitation to talk about his journey, his experiences, and I'm so glad that we are finally able to talk to you, Aditya. My name is Anuja Bali, and I have been doing this for the last 2+ years, bringing the voices of the waste warriors, working in sustainability, climate action, to make sure that it reaches the grassroots level, the common man, so they can understand how important it is, and then that connecting the dots and bridging the gaps can happen. So welcome, Aditya. I'm so happy that we are finally able to talk today. um, my first question to you would be, how did this young man Aditya get into such a heavy duty messy sector of waste management? How did that inspire you?
Yeah. First off, thank you for having me on, Anuja. I really appreciate
Most welcome.
the platform. It's always energizing to meet folks who are passionate about waste and circular economy, because I really do believe that waste is such a good platform to create positive impact on
Mhm.
so many different dimensions of society, right? Of course, the environment, but for me, what's super interesting is that agar hum waste ko better manage kar sakte hain, then we can definitely not only improve the environment, but we can improve the working conditions of the
Yeah.
workers who are on the front lines, particularly in the informal waste picking sector, who are, as you all know, at the bottom of the pyramid of society, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I think by creating better access to waste management, we think that there's so much community benefit that can be
Yeah.
created, particularly if you bring access to communities that are previously जिसके पास पहले कभी कोई डोर स्टेप वेस्ट कलेक्शन और प्रॉपर मैनेजमेंट नहीं रहा है.
Bilkul.
There's so much of a benefit that can happen when you have that basic civil service.
Yeah.
And so for me personally, the journey started at an early age. Not to say that I've been interested in waste from an early age, but I observed waste from an early age. I don't know if any of you are calling in from Bangalore today. Uh, anyone is, please do drop a note in the chat. But I grew up in Bangalore.
Mhm.
And when I was born in the 90s, Bangalore was called the Garden City of India.
Yeah.
By the time I was graduating high school, it was already known in 2015 or so, it was already called the Garbage City of India. So in front of my eyes, I saw this uh, really bad deterioration of the city in terms of going from a very clean, green city to a very polluted city that had waste at every corner of the street, of every street. And so on my way to school, I would look at these piles of waste that started to pop up all over the city and complain about it, right? Like a lot of us, I think my first association with waste is one of complaining about it.
Complete.
And unfortunately, I did not know better to do something about it at the time, but I would just complain about it, and something that was close to home for me.
Mhm.
And so when I went to university, I had the privilege of going to university in the US and got exposed to a very different kind of education system,
Mhm.
and also different kinds of people, meeting folks from all over the world. And in my third year of university, I started to develop an interest in this concept of building a business that is impactful in and of itself. This concept of social entrepreneurship, as you may
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah.
And I grew up in a family of business community. I was a Marwadi, so everyone around me was affiliated with business in some way or shape or form. And it was very much the expectation of me to either join my family in their business or do my own business. So,
Mhm.
but these businesses are, I think, inherently the community is very good at bifurcating their business practices, where they will be very cutthroat and address their bottom line in whatever way they can. And on the other end, they also will try to do a good work for society through a religious institution. But these are two very distinct compartments. And I
Absolutely.
kind of had that same belief that, okay, I will have to do business on one side and then do good through charitable endeavors on the other side. And so when
Mhm.
I got university, I was exposed to this concept of social entrepreneurship for the first time, where actually you can combine the two. You can, through
Both.
the vehicle of business itself, do create a positive benefit for society, for people, for the world. And that was very, very intriguing to me. And I really think I was energized by that concept. And so at university, I enrolled in this club for social entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
And through that club, I happened to meet some students who were doing research thesis. And one guy wrote an email saying he was looking to interact with people from India who could
Mhm.
help him research thesis on waste management in India. His
Wow.
name, not an Indian name, it was Peter Wang Yemdal. Uh,
Okay.
a very Indian name at all, right? And so my first reaction was one of judgment. अरे ये इंडिया से नहीं है, और फिर क्या इंडिया को खराब दिखाना चाहता है? What is he trying to do to learn about waste management in India, even though he's not from there?
Yeah.
That was my first reaction. But my second reaction was one of judgment for myself, because I was like, मैंने ये प्रॉब्लम पूरी जिंदगी देखी है, बट इन जनरल मैंने उसके बारे में कुछ किया नहीं
कुछ
है. So I was like, okay, let me at least take a conversation with this guy and see what he's up to.
Mm.
And I won't bore you with all of the details, but long story short, we hit it off. And my third co-founder now, Swanika, also met through similar community. And we decided to do a research thesis on the topic of plastic waste and
Mhm.
India, and particularly understand what solutions could be for improving the lives of informal waste pickers. And
Mhm.
so that was something that we really wanted to focus in on, was the dual impacts, not just the environmental impact, but the human cost of plastic
Uh-huh.
waste.
Mhm.
Long story short, we moved to India, did some research on the ground for over 6 or 8 months, got some funding from the university to pursue that research on the ground in Mumbai, went to all aspects of the waste ecosystem and spoke to anyone and everyone that was willing to speak to us, from
Yeah.
following a rag picker or waste picker on the streets and just seeing where they sold their material to, and then understanding, okay, who they are selling to. Kabadiwalas, let's talk to the kabadiwala that they sold to. And then the kabadiwala sells to an aggregator, and that aggregator sells to another aggregator, and then eventually a recycler. And we spoke to all of these rungs of the supply chain, quote unquote, of recycling. We spoke to government officials, we spoke to nonprofits, we spoke to civil society organizations, we spoke to unions and cooperatives and businesses who were trying to do something about recycling in India
Mm.
and in Mumbai at the time, and built a very good grassroots understanding of, from all of these perspectives, of what the situation was.
Mhm.
And put together our thesis. And we had in our thesis some identification of opportunities for what could be good investments to make if we wanted to improve the conditions.
Mhm.
And really, it didn't feel right to just hand in our thesis. जब भी हमने thesis hand in किया, हमें पता चला कि कोई पढ़ने वाला नहीं है. 200 pages of research that we had gathered that no one would ever read. It didn't feel right to. We had jobs at the time to go after university into consulting and finance, but decided that that didn't feel right to leave this problem that we had become quite attached to, because we were going on the ground into waste picker
Yeah.
communities, to dump sites in like Devnar, and generally become very attached to the problem. And it didn't feel right to just leave that research and have it go to waste. So we said, okay, let's take a leap of faith. Let's try to do something, anything we can. And we moved back to India. We forewent our jobs and said, okay, let's put that on hold. Let's try to give it a shot to do something meaningful with some of the ideas that we had identified. And that's how rePurpose was started in 2018. So since then, we've been working in a, what I would call, an learn as you go fashion. As we've learned more, we have tried to iterate on our solution set. But really, the core approach that we are taking is that we want to be a bridge between two different worlds that we unwittingly became a part of. So we had gone to a good business school in the US, and had a really through that, a privileged access into business communities, not just in the US, but even in India.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, we'd also, through our research, really looked into it from a grassroots level waste management ecosystem. And we realized that one of the most unique things we could do was to build a bridge between these two very disconnected worlds, the business ecosystem and the waste management ecosystem. And so today, rePurpose is trying to do exactly that, be a bridge for businesses to take action on plastic waste by connecting them to waste management ecosystem and mobilizing financing in support of waste management projects and innovators, helping scale those projects and develop best practices in how they operate and run, as well as at the same time helping businesses address their packaging in the first place so that they can reduce the amount of plastic that they're putting out into the world and do so in a way that's complying with all of the regulations. So yeah, I'll pause there. It's been an interesting journey the last 7 years, continuing to work on this. We've seen this sector really emerge, and now we're just really grateful to be in a position where we can support some amazing projects, both in India. We have 8 project partners in India, from nonprofits like Mangala Resource Management in Mangalore to businesses like Sahas Zero Waste and Greenworms in South India, to some cooperative partners as well. But in general, we are also setting up and scaling up waste management projects really across different countries where infrastructure for waste is lacking, from Ghana to Kenya to Colombia to Indonesia, have project partners in multiple locations. And of course, there's a lot of work to be done, but we think what we are really aiming for, to be ambitious about, is by 2040, we want to address 100 billion kilograms of plastic waste. And so generally, that's something that we are keeping as our North Star.
Wonderful. Absolutely impressive. And really, I'm in awe कि कोई youngsters को जब थोड़ा सा भी एक वो मिल जाता है direction, so they just take charge and full-fledged चले जाते हैं वहाँ पे. It's really awesome. And thank you for what you're doing, Aditya. We do need this, the young ones to come into this, क्योंकि पहले तो ऐसे सिर्फ कचरा माफिया बोला जाता था एंड अनऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर बोला जाता था, बट अब तो ये बहुत ऑर्गेनाइज्ड हो गया है पहले से ज़्यादा, एंड यू नो इट. एंड आई जस्ट wanted to remind you that you said I was a Marwadi. You're still a Marwadi. You're still part of the same.
I'm not saying that.
So your family will say, what? When did you start using was? But okay, that's just like a funny observation. But ये बहुत ही अच्छी बात है कि आप लोगों ने एक कॉलेज प्रोजेक्ट को आगे बढ़ाया, and you are taking it so seriously, and not only India but so many other countries जहाँ पे वो नहीं है solution, you're trying to put it. And we always talk about, one second, somebody has their okay, so we always talk about individual responsibility, like we have a group called My Waste, My Responsibility. So it all starts from there. But जब हम दिखाते हैं एक सीट मरीन लाइफ के उधर पे प्लास्टिक पॉलिथिन है या फिर एक स्ट्रॉ है, सो एवरीवन सेड दैट ओ एक स्ट्रॉ से क्या होगा, बट देन crores of straws went there. So, and packaging is a big problem. Very correct that you are making bringing some change there. So would you like to share something from your project time that really moved you, because you were aware of the problem but you never had seen it firsthand? So something that really shocked you and you said, oh my goodness, I must do something about it.
Yeah. And by the way, I think someone has their hand up. If you have a question, please jump in. I want to make this a conversation.
Yes,
This is Professor Vivekananda. Hope can I share my view in a minute, please? I'll not take much time. Yeah, this is Professor Vivekananda, IIT Bombay, and Indian Institute of Space Science Technology, Thiruvananthapuram, Vikram Sarabhai Space Center. Anyways, this is, I think, only my third time, coming to the on board of this thing. A fantastic program. Anyways, I was missing so many things, but otherwise, yeah. So you were telling about this Bangalore-based companies which are very much. So what the universities, what I have sat here and then mandated is to involve the students so that they will be understand, they will get the credits in their certificates also. This is what
Mhm.
I have been doing with my All India Council Technical Education as well as UGC. Whatever they will involve in the companies. For example, there is one company called Trashcon where
Mhm.
Yeah.
they focus on end-to-end waste segregation, where
Mhm.
the recycling will happen using the patented technologies. Okay,
Mhm.
so their trash bot separates the mixed waste into basically the biodegradable and non-biodegradable fractions.
Mhm.
And what is the impact that happens is all it helps the municipalities and then the Brihat Bangalore Mahanagar Palike, what we call here, and corporates move towards the zero waste. So that is one company where my students are doing the interns there, so that they will go involve and we try to clean the temples.
Yeah.
A a traditional way where besides the temple there will be a water pond where people earlier traditional days used to take bath, etc. So we wanted to preserve the water. By this thing also, so they are trying to clean that and then make the pond clean so that the people who come there will actually. So all these things are happening, which is really a good. So when I joined this, humongous work is going on. So we are learning so many things from this app. And this Eco Green Tech Private Limited is basically a large scale industrial treatment plant where the role is basically supporting the plastic waste management and
Mhm.
indirectly through the water purification, etc. There is one more guy called Daksha Green Enviro.
Mhm.
So he is also into this ultrafiltration and then commercial RO plants.
Mhm.
And his relevance again is managing the plastic laden industrial waste systems. So,
Mhm.
very nice that I could meet him also now. Madam Ji, I should thank you for organizing and then fantastic. Yeah, thanks.
You're most
Anyways, yes, madam. Any suggestions, madam, to us at Bangalore?
you're most welcome. And we had Sunil Mysore like 2 episodes earlier. He's also doing a fantastic uh, kind of a demo pilot on his terrace. So if you've not visited him, please do visit him, and then you can check out. I'll share the link on the group.
Yeah, yeah. So there is a big group here. So we will try to get into, and then all the members of the group I will attach here so that they will also understand and then they will play a big role. And we all would like to invite you people because sessions, workshops, and then exchange, knowledge exchange, or what we call the student exchange program, kind of. So if some exchange can happen,
Yeah,
you can come and then share the happenings that are happening there, and then successful this percentage what it is happening. To that extent, we can also come there and then showcase what is that happening. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
we can
Thanks.
definitely plan that. We can
Yes,
definitely.
yes, yes. I'm
And
I'm
sir,
uh, I'm
if
keeping
we can
down
be
my
a
hand.
resource, so
Yes.
if we can be a resource for your students, please feel free to connect after the call. I'll drop my contact information.
Yeah.
We have internships in our own organization, but also because we are connected to a lot of waste management partners, they are always looking for support from students. So I think that hopefully we
Now,
can help.
there is one thing called NSS activity,
Yeah.
National Service Scheme. So
Yeah.
doing great job. So we can use that, and then I have because I'm in the AICT committees, P&AP committees as well as UGC committees and the NAC. No, I should not name the NAC now because NAC people when I say NAC, it is most anyways. So we have mandated so many things at the great level, such that the students' involvement also is necessary
Yeah.
because they are the people who are the stakeholders in the coming year
Yeah.
living in the society.
So
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Professor Viveka,
Yes,
for sharing.
Vivekananda. Yeah,
Thank you so much for sharing.
thank you.
Yes, Aditya. Would you like to share something that really moved you and disturbed or bothered you that you had to take this step?
yeah, I think it's a great question, and each of us, I think, has like something or the other that we latch on to as like a personal source of motivation. For me, the first time I felt that very strong urge to want to do something about this, not just research this problem, was when जब हम देवना dumping ground के अंदर गए. I
Uh-huh.
don't know कोई यहाँ से गया है अंदर, it's for me one of the most apocalyptic scenes to go into that dumping ground and walk around and see these towers of waste rising above us, and you can almost see the skyline of the city of
Yeah.
Mumbai blend into the background with these towers of waste. And never before was it so clear to me that these two worlds are on a collision course, because it's not in the outskirts, right? It's very much in the heart of the
It's
city of
inside.
Mumbai.
Yeah.
And Unfortunately, for the last 100 or so years, it has been Mumbai's dumping ground, and now is almost at capacity. But for me, going into that dumping ground and just seeing the sheer magnitude of the problem, realizing that जो जमीन हम खड़े है वो actually जमीन नहीं है, that's 30-40 meters of waste that is piled up.
Yeah.
It itself was shocking. And then you see 30-40 meters of waste towers rising above you. But on top of that, I think as we left Devnar, I mean, just that entire community around it is dependent on the dump site, right?
Yeah.
A lot of informal waste pickers who go into the dump site, and we happened to strike up conversations with some of them as we were doing our research. We wanted to understand the lives of informal waste picking, and unfortunately heard some horror stories that I think will stick with me to this day about how a lot of these community members had gotten into waste picking very early on, as young as age 3 or 4, because their parents had done it and unke parents ne pehle kiya tha. And these are, of course, like inherently caste-based, marginalized populations, consigned to dealing with this burden of everyone else's waste.
Yeah.
And some of these workers, they shared with us some of the stories of their own relatives, folks who had lost their lives in fires in the landfill, some folks who had gotten addicted to drugs and alcohol by as early as age 8 or 9, because uh, being high was the only way they could उनसे सह नहीं जा सकता था कि मैं
बिल्कुल.
waste के साथ deal कर रहा हूँ. So I think these kinds of stories, just that one day of going to Devnar dumping ground, it created a really powerful image that will never, I think, be erased from my mind, at least. And then hearing some of the stories and perspectives of the people who actually have to go into, I had the privilege of saying, okay, I can go in and out, right? I can go for
Yeah.
my research and come out.
Come on.
But recognizing that there is an entire set of communities who are dependent almost for their livelihoods on this dump site
Yeah.
was shocking to me. So for me, since that day, I think it became a personal motivation to try to do something about this problem. And today, I think what is still a good motivation source is that there is so much left to be done, right? We have not really gotten rid of this archaic practice of collecting waste and then dumping it in dumping grounds. What we really need to move towards is collecting waste at the doorstep, yes, but then sending that into collection centers and then material recovery facilities where waste can be segregated and processed. Generally speaking, the uh, efficient waste management system is also the more ethical one, in my opinion, right? Because right now we rely on, after the waste has been dumped, we rely on waste pickers to go in and scavenge out material that can be recycled. If we can employ those same workers or get them engaged even in a sort of entrepreneurial capacity in the formal waste management system, I think that will be for the better, so that we don't need open scavenging of waste. So yeah, that I think is a core memory that I think will stick with me and gives me fuel as well to do something about the issue.
Yeah. It's like a very unfortunate truth, but that's a reality. And many of these communities that have been working in many cities, not only in Mumbai, are the same. They were not educated, they were illiterate, they migrated from their villages, they belonged to the same lower, that community caste and all those things. And there were no other jobs for them. And so this was the only thing they could do, um, even if they are unskilled. And that's how they took up, and mostly women, in Pune and many cities. So it's really a sad thing, but the way they work hard and they are so dedicated and um, so knowledgeable about it now, that we can learn things from them. We have a question from Amit. What do you think these rag pickers and other personnel, the staff, the waste pickers, they need the most? Maybe that one thing almost all of us all want as welfare, or what is it that you have assessed until now?
Yeah. I don't think it's one thing, unfortunately. It
Yeah,
would be
of
easy to
course.
answer one thing. I think it's a few different things, right? If you follow the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, of course, like stable livelihood is the base, safe working conditions. But I think ultimately what I've seen in some of our projects when we have workers who are working in a formal capacity in uh, with uniforms and ID cards, those are the aspects that give a lot of pride where most waste pickers know that they are doing something beneficial to society, but they feel pushed out of society by the rest of the world, right? And they don't feel welcome.
Yeah,
And when they are able to feel included from a
yeah,
perspective of, okay, I am respected for the valuable contribution I'm making in enabling really the foundation of recycling.
yeah,
That I think gives a lot of pride to them as well, that okay, I can have a uniform, an identity card, I can go to someone's house and not have them shoo me away,
yeah,
but actually give me their waste at their doorstep. I think those kinds of changes are also very important. So yeah, I don't think it's one need
yeah,
more so than anything else. Of course, if I had to rank it, it would definitely be just basic livelihood and income potential, but on top of that, I think there are all of these other areas of uh, investment needed as well, right? So what we try to do is really think about, okay, how do we at first get basic living, if not employment structure, even if they are working in an informal capacity with our projects, how do we get above market prices be paid to them so that they can have a living wage over time? How do we get them incorporated into basic social programs? Now, there are a lot of tricky complexities here, right? A lot of undocumented folks here who are
yeah.
scared of revealing
Review. Absolutely.
documentation because they are afraid that that can have negative consequences for them. So we have to work with sensitivity here, and we try to do that with the utmost sensitivity, always relying on local experts who have the track record of engaging with these communities, because different places, different dynamics have
Yeah,
different dynamics. So yeah, I think that's for me, my, at least if I share, okay, what is my ambition? It is really to think about, okay, a world where a waste picker is turned into a waste worker, right? They are not scavenging for material, and their daily bread is reliant on whatever material they can scavenge for, and therefore they have to expose themselves to very harsh conditions to be able to scavenge for material. Ideally, you can have these folks be collecting waste directly
collective.
from those,
Yeah,
and then segregating waste in better facilities. And even if they're not employed, because some of these folks don't want to be tied to one job, right? Like, so we
yeah,
find innovative models. One cooperative that we work with, they run a material recovery facility, and the workers there are not employed as salaried people. They are paid still according to the amount of work that they do and how much recyclables they segregate, because that's what they prefer. But
yeah,
it still gives them some basic working conditions that are better objectively than dump sites, right? It gives
yeah,
them some basic access into social provisions that are already made available through welfare schemes.
yeah,
It gives them over time, hopefully, a credit uh, score so that they can take out loans to fund purchases like a house or a
yeah,
vehicle for their children's education. And I think ultimately that's what everyone wants, right? Is that they can set up a life that is better for their children than they themselves have it. And so ultimately those are um, our efforts. But I'll pause there.
no, absolutely. See, dignity, respect, inclusion, to feel, to be acknowledged, to be wanted, to be a part of the social machinery. All that is everybody's need, and they are also human beings. They also have the same needs. The It's a very I love this sentence of yours that from waste pickers they should become waste collectors, and they should actually know कि हम उनके ऊपर कितने ज़्यादा dependent हैं. क्योंकि even if I am in this sector, I still have 2-3 connections until it reaches the right place. I may manage my wet waste and compost at home, but for dry, I'm still dependent on someone. So they are the key, like significant members of the society, but they just need to be given that acknowledgement and that status. So that's, I'm sure that'll, we are all working towards that, and that'll happen soon. Um, so now you work with so many people in India, like Green Worms. I had visited their, facility, I think 2-3 years ago, and it was really nice. Couple of weeks ago, we had Shekhar from Hasiru Dala Innovations, and he spoke about again the inclusion and the rights and the dignity, and we are all wanting the same thing. And they also, like Swatch in Pune is also working with the same purpose. So when we care so much about them, there are still a set of people who are the authorities or the decision makers. And I guess we are all promoting decentralized solutions, and centralized solutions have more money for the people who want to make money out of this. Have you ever felt that conflict where you had to literally, you got frustrated, or you were like, my goodness, this is not happening, or how do I get through this? That breaking the walls between centralized solutions and promoting decentralized solution.
So I think inherent in our model is to partner with local waste management operators who have a proven track record of creating systems that are working in their context. And a lot of that means that they have to be able to have a productive engagement with their local authorities, right? You mentioned the example of Greenworms. I'll take that example. They've created, really cracked this model of village level collection. In a at a unit level, villages in Kerala are lacking access to waste management services in a regular and sustained way. They've cracked a model of being able to onboard one by one a village to be brought into a formal waste collection system, and doing the work necessary to be able to bring the local stakeholders, be it the bureaucrats in charge of the region, or the local village councils or village panchayats responsible, bringing them in a collaborative way and leveraging their position to provide the basic things that are needed, the permissions, the maybe some land for facilities and sheds, maybe the local enforcement capabilities to enforce citizens or residents to segregate waste and so on. So I think we have basically relied upon our implementation partners, our project partners, to work through these, I would not say challenges, but work through figuring out the right collaborating model for the local government authorities. Now, in an ideal world, I do believe that there is a public-private partnership necessary to have waste management at scale, where the government infrastructure is able to set the right incentives, is able to provide the resources necessary from a land perspective or permissions perspective to have operators operate, but then have good quality operators that are actually having end-to-end accountability, not collecting and then dumping, but to actually get zero waste to landfill and maximize value creation from the waste that is collected. So ultimately that's our model inherently. I personally feel very grateful that we have amazing partners that are able to strike up these right collaboration structures. Now, what we have seen is the power of this. You brought up Swatch as an example. When the municipality of Pune is able to empanel an organization like Swachh to be appointed as waste collectors, that creates such a powerful incentive or powerful platform or foundation for Swachh to be able to scale across the entire city, right? And they've been a fantastic success story. I think on the flip side, you do have, of course, challenges like corruption, right? Like, and there is a lot of contractor-based corruption as well, where contractors are incentivized to take shortcuts and
Yes.
dump material because they're paid a tipping fee, etc. So these are practices that come with. I don't think there's any one correct answer to them, but you just have to be cognizant and work with the right partners. That's what we do, at least.
Yeah, that that should be done, and unfortunately, we are facing a lot of challenges. So that will be another thing. But Pune is in really a messy situation when it comes to waste management. Um, and so is the situation in many other cities. There are places in India where there is no collection at all. There is no gadi going to collect. There is no segregation. There's no concept of segregation. And the waste, the WT plants, the waste to energy plants, which are essentially maybe successful in European countries or other countries, they cannot be successful here because it's the volume, the the volume and the kachra they put it in the plant in a mixed fashion, which is supposed to be done otherwise. Only segregated dry stuff should go in. So हमारे पास वो ही अभी तक बुनियादी challenges ही चल रहे हैं. Somebody goes to some country and says, oh wow, this is running so well, let's do it here. So we some most of it is still running on that uh, the struggle. But I would like you to share, um, if like we have done a lot of decentralized solutions ke bare mein, we talk and we do all that. So how do you uh, share with somebody who's new in a city where there is a small city where there is no system of collection? What would you say? How should they start, and how should they figure out the good partners, and what should be kind of a process they should follow?
Absolutely. We actually started up a incubator program, or an incubator plus accelerator program for
Nice.
aspiring waste management entrepreneurs. So I can share some of the resources around that if it's helpful. But really, I think there's a structural process that is needed, right? First,
Yeah.
you have to understand what is the current baseline of activity in your region, because very important to understand what is currently happening, what are the gaps in the current scenario in a research manner, where it's not just desk research, but actually talking to the right people, the local authorities, people who are involved in contractors locally, people who are, let's say, nonprofits who are, or civic society individuals who are wanting to do something about this, like really building a good understanding of the baseline scenario as it stands.
Mhm.
And then within that baseline scenario, trying to study, okay, what are the white spaces? What are the gaps that are not currently being addressed, right? Because at the end of the day, you can't start off trying to solve everything. You have to pick
Yeah.
one or two gaps and address those. And so, like, maybe you pick and identify that, okay, multi-laminate plastic packaging is one of the biggest problems, because no one is the informal sector is not incentivized to collect it and recycle it because there's very little value for it.
Mhm.
Maybe you pick segregation and source segregation as the issue that you want to prioritize. You have to pick one issue, right? I
Yeah.
think ultimately to start with. Then you design an intervention that creates a maximum delta over and above the baseline on that particular white space.
Mhm.
Let's say, for example, if it's multi-laminate packaging, maybe you can say, okay, I will do X. And there's a few different things you can do to try to incentivize collection. Maybe you can try to get funding from corporations through EPR financing. Maybe you can try to say, hey, let's create a citizen based program where we get school students. I think you might know Safai Bank. They have
Yeah.
school students collect
Yeah.
plastic
In Bombay.
wrappers, bottles, and maybe I can recreate that model. Maybe I can do a particular drive to maybe partner with artists who can source low value multi-laminate plastic and then do something with it and set up exhibits, like whatever you want to do,
Yeah.
right? Like doing that intervention. And then it's about, I think, monitoring and evaluating once that solution is starting to be deployed, monitoring, evaluating what is actually happening relative to the baseline. Are you able to drive a delta and change things, and then learning and iterating from there, right? And then I think ultimately, maybe after a few months, you say, okay, I've gotten this multi-laminate plastic packaging model working. Maybe I'll start to scale up a little bit more on top of that itself, or maybe I'll also try to do source segregation now so that
Yeah.
I can add layer on top of that, right? So I think ultimately that for me is the philosophy we try to build through even this incubator program, is a step-by-step approach that starts with understanding the local context and the baseline, designing an intervention that creates a delta over and above that baseline in a targeted way on one particular white space,
Mm-hmm.
deploying that solution for a few months and seeing how that emerges, and then learning in evaluating how things have gone, and then iterating on top of that, to either learn from mistakes or to learn from what has already worked, to scale up on top of what has already worked. So yeah, that's the structure that I mean, more specifics I can share. I know that's pretty high level, but it depends on the specific region that you're in.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think my biggest perspective is that you have to have some sort of mentality of a business model, even if you want to set it up as a nonprofit. Like, what is the way that you think about this being self-sustaining, and have the right level of practicality of, okay, I won't be able to do everything on day one, but I will have to start somewhere. And what is the right way I can get that one thing started and keep it self-sustaining so that I can then eventually build on top of that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Can I add something? Can I?
Yes.
Please jump in.
Yes, yeah. Again, Vivekananda here.
Mhm.
Basically, we were talking about when I was with Kumaramangalam Birla's Harihara Polyfibers in Karnataka. There was a huge problem that he was facing. In fact, there was a non-bailable arrest warrant against him through the Karnataka government's High Court, where we could involve and then resolve the issue, because the biogas plant and then etc. Whatever the waste that was getting, it was released to the river, Bhadra River,
Oh,
and then the nearby areas were getting infertile, and then huge things were happening. But otherwise, so we all involved, and then there was one biogas plant which was dead. We got rejuvenated, and then it started functioning, and he was thanking us. And anyway, those contracts 5 years, it was renewed. That's okay. Now the people started getting carbon credits, huge carbon credits they used to get, and because of the involvement in that green credits, etc. Same way, I could also hear about plastic credits. So could you explain what is this all about, this plastic credit, where the collection, recycling, or whatever responsible for the disposal, example is that 1 kg or 1 ton if I take, okay, how is that it is measurable, traceable, and then verifiable? Because normally certified standards are there. I came to know also that this who is that Verras plastic waste reduction standards. So if that is the kind of thing that can be encouraged, as you said, the incubators, etc. So if we can get into that, and then these credits can come back, they can sell these credits and then get the account, rather financial stability, to run the show. So what is your stand on this, please?
yeah. That was going to be my next question about what do you think about plastic credits? Is
Correct.
that is that greenwashing, or is that actually happening? What is it?
Yeah, I mean, we started, to be very transparent, we started with this concept. We don't call it plastic credits anymore, but we very much mobilize financing from businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily, we don't do it from businesses in India. We primarily do it from businesses in other parts of the world who want to address plastic pollution in nature
Okay.
and who want to have that impact be attributed to them. We mobilize that financing from them and then deploy that into projects that we partner with local operators on, and have a very specific quantifiable impact
Which all
be
countries have these
created
schemes?
that then is attributed.
Uh-huh.
Sorry.
Now, which all countries have these schemes? They have started, it seems, in UK and Brazil, kind of, where the governments integrate the credits into that.
Even India
They
has
call
that
that
now
as
with
EPR.
EPR. Yeah,
EPR,
exactly.
fantastic. EPR, very true, very true.
Yeah.
But in
And
India, what we have and why
uh,
we
uh,
have stayed away so far from
Yeah.
working with Indian businesses is that there is a race to the bottom in terms of generating certificates for EPR without actually financing any activity actually on the ground. So there is a lot of paper printing of certificates by actors who just want to make, let's say, a rupee per kilogram or something like that, and they will just say, hey, I am registered as an EPR certificate provider. I will print out a certificate for you so you can meet your EPR compliance to the business, and ultimately no actual additional impact happens, right? So what we try to do is focus on businesses who are actually willing to pay a price that is enabling activity on the ground, and we channelize this projects like, for example, in Greenworm's case, where we set up new villages to be set up and operational with waste management system, and particularly focus on low value and
No,
multi-laminate.
how ethically is this? For example, I'm talking about the corporates, FMCG, pharma, or maybe personal care brands, etc., where their output of this waste or plastic, this thing is very huge. So how do we ethically scale that and measure that, and then that it is earmarked so that they have to buy this from the people, and balance that so that credits are used to meet that ESG goals, So is there any explanation on that, please?
Yeah, I think, look, for us, our philosophy is that a business needs to pull multiple levers to address plastic pollution, right? Our philosophy is that any business, if you want to say that you are taking responsibility on plastic pollution, you have to go through a 4-step journey. First, you need to measure your packaging and plastic use, because you don't manage what you don't measure. So you need to understand what you're currently using and understand the implications of those choices you are making. Second, you need to use that data to drive a targeted reduction strategy over time, and replace the use of plastic with better materials, maybe cut out unnecessary uses of plastic, lightweight wherever you can, etc., etc. But recognizing that reduction is not going to be possible overnight. The alternatives are simply not there yet for a business to say, okay, overnight I will go zero plastic. That's the reality, right? Like, the alternatives are sometimes, I saw there was a question in the chat about bioplastics. I have a lot of thoughts on bioplastics. The reality is that a lot of bioplastics are complete myths, right? They are not actually biodegradable. And even if they are, they might be worse off for the compost quality than expected. So long story short, the reduction is not going to happen overnight. So our third step recommendation is that, okay, while you work towards a longer term reduction strategy, you should also be taking immediate action. If that immediate action is not possible in your own supply chain, can you do something outside of the value chain and support the recovery of plastic waste from nature, support the strengthening of waste management infrastructure in places that don't have it, so that we can address the amount of plastic that's leaking into nature through your corporate financing or funding. And then fourth, recognizing that, okay, you have to credibly report whatever you are doing, both within your own supply chain as well as outside of your supply chain, to all the stakeholders that matter, right? And report what you are doing to measure and reduce your plastic use, but also report what you're doing outside of your supply chain and present that accurately, right? Like, not presenting any one thing you are doing as, okay, I've solved my plastic responsibility because I've done this one thing, but really presenting the holistic picture of what you are doing. And then also now reporting that into government regulators, because there is a lot of compliance coming in to the picture. And India is strengthening its compliance requirements as well, for example, with PCR requirements and mandates and so on. So really, we think of it as the holistic framework. If you want to address plastic waste as a business responsibly, you have to follow that 4-step process of measure, reduce, take immediate action by financing plastic recovery, and then finally credibly communicating everything that you're doing. I'll pause, but really for us, I have no ethical problem in taking financing from a business that is willing to support waste management infrastructure projects and willing to support the recovery of low value plastic that otherwise need a subsidy. Because at the end of the day, that business is willing to put their money where their mouth is. They are willing to say, okay, I will fund a certain amount of plastic recovery and do so in a way that then also complements my longer term reduction plans. So for us, that's our stance. Now, I think that there is a lot of perspectives on business that, okay, we should not work with businesses in the first place, but because at the end of the day, anything that a business is doing that is not replacing plastic use overnight is in the way of the problem. We actually push back on that view, because ultimately businesses are the core culprits, but excluding them from being part of the journey towards being part of the solution is, I think, also short-sighted, because ultimately, if businesses don't take responsibility and take responsibility in a holistic way that's practical for themselves, we will not be moving the needle on the problem.
Absolutely. Yeah. We need to include businesses. And that's one of the reasons I really appreciate that, I saw various names that you've been working with. And of course, the list can be endless because there are businesses everywhere. And I'm kind of looking at what you just said. It's like they are placed somewhere in US or somewhere in another geography, and here we have something happening, done by green worms in a coastal village, which needs support to run, and they can help so much. So they are sort of sponsoring.
Yeah,
By means of
absolutely.
sponsoring, they are showing their the social responsibility. It's like CSR in India.
Exactly. And this is voluntary efforts that they're taking on. Now, the reason we try to work with businesses in the US is primarily just because they have more budgets to be able to deploy towards these kinds of activities. But the reason we deploy that capital not in the US alone, but rather into places like India or Indonesia, is because at the end of the day, the US is not the source of plastic leaking into nature, into the oceans, right? The US has a very good waste management infrastructure. It's not good at recycling, but there's no waste leaking into nature openly, or openly burning of waste, right? So there is
Have a
a
question.
lot of um, data now to show that 80% of plastic leaks into the oceans from a few thousand rivers in South and Southeast Asia alone. And that's primarily because of the lack of access to waste management infrastructure. So our theory of change to the business is in North America, let's say, is to say, hey, while you are doing what you can to reduce plastic use in your own supply chain and you're doing what you can to support domestic recycling here in the US, you should also be thinking about the global problem of plastic pollution. If your business wanted to solve or support for biodiversity and prevent biodiversity loss, you would not try to do so in the US because biodiversity loss happens in certain hotspots, right? Like the Amazon. Similarly, plastic pollution also has certain hotspots. India now has the, I guess, dishonor of being the number one
Yeah.
country in terms of where plastic is most leaking into the oceans from. And so that's our case to businesses is that, hey, yes, you might be operating in, let's say, the west coast of California, but it's completely something that is positive for you to support business, let's say, the setup of a village level waste management system in Kerala on the coastline, so that we prevent that plastic from being dumped openly and then eventually being leaked into the ocean. So that's our sort of approach as well.
I do have a little conflict,
I believe
like
there's one more question from, I think
the
someone.
bioplastic one. In India, the infrastructure is missing to segregate. What are your suggestions to take it forward? Or do you feel this is not the way to go, the bioplastics?
So I think it's a complex issue. I believe that with bioplastics, there is a lot of misinformation. First of all, bioplastics can be of various types, right? Like bioplastic can be literally the same chemical composition as a polymer, as a plastic polymer, as a virgin plastic polymer, but just sourced from, let's say, cornstarch or some sort of organic ingredient. Now, of course, that's a good thing in the sense that you're replacing fossil fuel derived plastic when you're using it. But at the end of its life, it still behaves exactly like plastic
Yeah.
waste. Uh, there's some biodegradable plastics that say that, okay, we will have plastic materials that can be compostable or biodegradable, but a lot of that is only industrially
Yes.
compostable. To get them
Yes.
to industrial composting facilities, the industrial composting facilities are often rejecting these kinds of materials because they are hurting the quality of their compost. So I think there's a lot of nuance, right? It's my hope and aspiration that we can someday get to materials that can just vanish into nature once you discard of them and they regenerate the soil or whatever they're put into. But unfortunately, a lot of the materials that are being marketed today are not that, right? There is some materials that have some positive hope that I have a lot of hope on. For example, some seaweed based materials, some mushroom based materials, but ultimately there is a long journey. And then also you have to talk about the business practicalities as well, right? Can these
Yes.
bioplastic alternatives be replacing plastic at an economical way for the businesses to actually adopt them, or will they end up increasing the price for the end consumer? Once they're adopted by the business, can they withstand the practical world in terms of protecting the product and not creating a shelf loss or something like that, because some of these bioplastics are not able to withstand the rigors of the real world. So these are all
Yeah.
complexities that I think we need to be mindful of. But I think ultimately that comes down to doing the homework on the specific material that you're evaluating and standing by it. I know that I think someone named Fabian has had a
Hi,
question for a while.
Can I just jump in? Sorry, that's too long to type.
No, please go.
Please do.
Hi, Aditya. So I'm based out of Bombay. We're part of a group called the Mumbai Donut Collab, where we're trying to aggregate people in the waste management industry. One of the things that we found talking to companies that work on plastic, work with plastic pollution or work against plastic pollution, is that to some extent the concept of a platform that sort of like yours, which allows to create a more transparent system, is allows the companies to do a certain extent of saying we're doing something, but only to a certain extent. Now, like you said, agreed, there are no alternatives. Last week we heard somebody who's working on fungal alternatives, and there aren't any realistic alternatives. And like even like right now, INC 5.2 is going on, and it's difficult. But what I want to get from you is, you talked about step 3, where you said it's part of the reduction. You talk to the companies about reduction and how they can do that. How realistic are the companies? Like, are they looking at this as saying, okay, here's a platform that's allowing us to do this. We get to like 5% reduction and put that up on our website and an annual report, but really we're not going to push for alternatives like metal, plastic, blah, blah, blah. And this is this is the best we're going to do. Are companies really looking to move away from plastic, or they're just looking at the bottom line?
I think ultimately they're looking at their bottom line, but they also have to look at plastic as a part of their bottom line, because there is particularly in the US, there is a strong consumer sentiment. Plastic is the #1 environmental issue in the minds of consumers, even above climate change. And so there is a lot of real world pressure from their consumers who are preferring anti-plastic alternatives, especially with the advent of microplastics as a talking point, right? So I think companies are doing this in pursuit of their bottom line being protected, as well as their reputation being protected, right? So now you're completely right in saying this, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, if it's Fabian, that in the end of the day, a business is going to look out for its bottom line, right? Like that's completely true. And so my hope is that we can figure out ways to help make acting on plastic waste, both in their own supply chain as well as outside of their supply chain in nature, and support projects like the ones that we develop, make that better for their bottom line, right? Either by helping them from a perspective of cutting cost and reducing compliance overheads, which are now starting to come about as well, or by helping them engage with consumers on an issue that they care about, right? And driving a better brand perception and loyalty and so on. So we think that ultimately anything that is working with a business in building solutions for businesses to act, you have to try to make it ROI positive for them. Now, there's a lot of nuance involved in that, right? Like, how do you avoid these companies from just saying they're partnering with us, for example, and then getting away with not doing anything else? Like, of course, we have to recognize that there is a lot of constraints there, but at the same time, what we try to do is effectively be arming them with data and resources to make very obvious reductions that will cut their costs, will improve their perception with customers, will increase their regulatory compliances. Those are the low-hanging fruit, right? Like, we have to start there. And then you're completely right, Fabian, that like it is going to be complex over time to get 100% out of plastic, right? Then you look at alternatives like reuse-based models or refill-based models, and they are still quite small scale, even here in the US, and let alone India, where it's much more, I think, niche, even more niche. But ultimately, we think that those kinds of models will grow in demand only as end consumers start to demand that more and more, right? And that is still a niche movement to start with. But over time, I think that I see that growing, especially with some of the businesses we partner with. For example, they started off looking at plastic recovery outside of their supply chains. That became an internal tax for them because they were tying the amount of plastic they were recovering and therefore paying us money against to the amount of plastic they were using. That became an incentive for their production team to say, okay, we're going to cut down plastic use because we need to move away from that because we have this tax that we're paying. And that has driven like a good amount of reduction in their own supply chain on the very obvious places, but they're also very actively experimenting with refill-based models and aluminum packaging and so on. So now it is a complex problem. I don't think there is a one-size-fits-all solution for any business. But what we try to do is really be a partner to these businesses, because these are long-term journeys rather than overnight switches. And
Sure.
that's my sort of theory of
I
change.
get that. So a
Yeah.
quick sort of philosophical follow-up to that is, as you know, we hear a lot about just transition. A lot of us are working with workers towards, you know, just transition away from plastic. If we move out of whatever coal-based economies, that kind of stuff. But as a company, if you are, or a platform, as if you're pushing companies to initially reduce the plastic usage and then hopefully move towards alternative plastic, do you see yourself uh, putting yourself out of the plastics business itself as a plastics platform and moving to another platform? Is that your sort of goal as a company, as founders, to no longer have to deal with companies offering them these plastic solutions? Is that your aim eventually, to sort of just transition away yourselves from a platform that offers plastic solutions to other solutions?
Yeah, to be completely frank, I think we are so far away from that would
Yeah.
Yeah,
be
So,
uh,
which is why I
the
said it's a
reality is
philosophical
that
question.
for us, what we are doing right now really is thinking about it as a platform where we offer multiple solutions, right? So one of our solutions is a software platform to help businesses measure and account for their packaging use that data to drive targeted reduction strategies, simulate different pathways for replacing packaging material X with Y, and seeing what differential impacts that has on the environment, but also on the business from a cost and compliance perspective, meeting regulatory compliances and so on. And then on parallel, we also have this project development arm, which develops projects that businesses can finance and support the recovery of plastic through. And we see both aspects of the business. We are a business structured as ourselves as a social enterprise, right? So we see both aspects of these solutions working in tandem. And frankly, one interesting fact is that 50% of the plastic recovery financing that we mobilize is actually mobilized from brands that are zero plastic or plastic free already. So they want to double down on the anti-plastic stance that they are taking by cleaning up plastic from nature as well. So one hope that we have is that until there is plastic waste in nature to be cleaned up, until there is regions where infrastructure for waste management is lacking, that there is still a role for businesses to play to support the financing of those efforts. Now, if we get to that point where there is 100% coverage across the world, where we've plugged the leakage of plastic waste into nature, then we will, of course, stop that project development arm and focus on other solutions. But at the same time, I think we're so far away from that. But my point to you is that I think we see that project development arm as being able to take in financing, not just from businesses that are using plastic in their own packaging, but also from businesses that are anti-plastic already, and also from funding institutions like multilateral development organizations, or like the World Bank, or the Asian Development Bank, where we can be a partner to deploy existing pools of capital that have already been earmarked to strengthen waste management infrastructure, where we can be a partner to them in strengthening infrastructure in them and pursuing their mandates as well. So we see that project development arm now increasingly shifting focus away from just working with businesses that are using plastic in their own packaging, that want to support some efforts, to being a project development arm that can support any funding body that has pools of capital to deploy towards strengthening waste management infrastructure. I hope that answers your question.
Excellent. Thank you. And more power to you and your team.
and
Thank you.
Fabian, I think that'll happen that situation will happen next life, when we'll be like, maybe.
Well, we can only hope, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, Aditya, I had something to say when you mentioned that US ka plastic ka kachra manage ho jata hai wahan pe, it does not come elsewhere.
So it does get exported for sure.
Yeah,
That's why we also make the case that, hey, that's why you should be taking action on plastic in other countries like India and Indonesia, because a lot of recyclables are shipped away from the US
Yes.
to the countries where, and it's also low value plastic that is shipped away, right? That doesn't
Yes.
end up getting recycled in these other regions, but gets openly dumped or burned.
Absolutely. I just wanted to, bring that key. That's the reality.
But my point was more like why we don't put too much effort into strengthening waste management infrastructure in the US is because they have good waste collection systems at the very least, right? And that waste
Absolutely.
collection is really
Yes,
lacking.
they do have very good waste collection system. I really admire that the days are separate, all of that. But एक चीज है कि वहाँ पर अभी भी they are still using the styrofoam packaging, the plastic spoons, the plastic straws. If you go to any rest stop, the bins are like mixed plastic littered and kind of it's a challenge. So
Yeah, I mean that's the reality everywhere, right? We are a society that is very dependent and addicted to plastic and the convenience that it offers, and moving away from that is quite complex. And that's something that I struggle with. And Fabian, I think this is maybe something you think a lot about in your collective as well, which is at the end of the day, the consumer behavior sentiment
yeah,
is so difficult to change because convenience is so high of plastic relative to the alternatives. And we've seen models like Loop, for example, not take off, right? The founder of TerraCycle called it a pilot that was never really intended to be supported and scaled up by the businesses that were partnering with it in this reuse initiative, because the businesses knew that it's so inconvenient for end consumers relative to the convenience of single-use plastics. So it is complex and challenging.
yeah. Absolutely, behavior change is not easy. So, but we'll still try to work on it and bring up some good solutions to it. If we've already crossed your time, that one hour is gone, and we were like non-stop conversation ho raha tha, bahut acha, engaging. What would you like to share with the students, the college students who are still finishing up, or they are looking for projects, or they already have projects, but they would rather work on other other things, not waste? What do you want to say something to them? We have lots, hundreds and thousands of students in our uh, कम्युनिटी जो हमेशा कुछ यूनिक करना चाहते हैं, कुछ अच्छा करना चाहते हैं, बट वेस्ट doesn't seem to be the priority. What would you say to them?
Look, I think at the end of the day, this is my real core belief, is that we can't work on anything positive unless we feel passionate about it, right? So if you feel passionate about waste, great. There's a lot of opportunity in this space. I think at the intersection of addressing plastic pollution, there's a lot of business opportunity. There's a lot of societal pressure to push on this issue. So I think that there is going to be a lot of progress we will make in the next 10, 15, 20 years against plastic waste. And Fabian brought up INC5, which is this plastic treaty negotiation,
Yeah.
which I think will open up a lot more support for initiatives in this general direction. But at the end of the day, I think my hope is that your students in your network are able to see any problem that they feel passionate about and building solutions to that as a meaningful career in and of itself, right?
Yes.
And doing that in a way that feels authentic to themselves. I certainly feel like there's so many problems in society, and one hope I would have is that we take approaches to building solutions for those problems in society as our careers and calling and pursuits, because there's so much of established pathway in, let's say, joining a business that is purely net bad for the world. And ultimately, I think my hope is that businesses can also be a vehicle for positive change and impact in whatever problems you deem beneficial or deem important to solve. And yeah, that's my sort of call to action is if you are thinking about careers, to try to think about what is a way that you can shape your career to be a little bit more positively impactful and in whatever way, whatever skill
Yeah.
set you're, be it design or sales or finance, there's ways to make your career more positively impactful. And so that would be my nudge to your students in it.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, waste is connected to everything. Whether take the rivers, they are full of waste. Whether you take the land or the ocean, everywhere you see this dump. So इन अ वे वो हर प्रॉब्लम से कनेक्टेड है किसी ना किसी रूप में, लेकिन उन्हें ऐसा लगता है जनरली कि इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू वर्क बिकॉज ऑफ द सपोर्ट नहीं है ज़्यादा, इसीलिए उनको लगता है। और ऐसा भी लगता है कि उसमें बहुत इन्वेस्टमेंट करना पड़ता है कि आपको अगर MRF लाइक कुछ रिकवरी फैसिलिटी करना है तो वो सारा चीज़ें, दैट इज़ व्हाट काइंड ऑफ उनको थोड़ा सा हेजिटेशन लगता है। बट लाइक यू मेंशन देयर आर सो मेनी इंक्यूबेटर्स एंड एक्सेलरेटर्स एंड ये सारा जो हो रहा है उससे शायद इट विल ओपन डोर्स फॉर देम. So this incubation program that you have, is it only in the US or in India as well?
No, it's specifically for business set up in India. I can drop a quick.
Yes. Then if whenever the dates are, they can have a look and apply. Whoever is eligible, of course. Great.
Yep. Share in the chat.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes, Professor Vivekananda. It is lots. He just shared some statistics.
Okay. Thanks so much. Thanks, Aditya.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I'm unable to have the link right now on short notice, but just sharing a quick.
No problem. I will share. If it's shared on LinkedIn or something, I'll copy it from there and I'll share it. Okay, here. Okay.
Exactly. I've just dropped my email.
Aditya, also in incubation, is that BOD kind of BOD5 or what is that, or enzymatic trials? What is that you're trying to come out with? Incubation?
This is for waste management operations.
Okay.
So you can check out the link.
Oh, okay. Because my NSS activity can go, and then all the funds are available from UGC as well as my AICT RNA Council. So they are very much interested in kind of getting this, and then this can be a great activity. Please, need of the day.
We will share.
Yeah, sir. I've dropped my email. Why don't we connect after? And I would love to support your students in any way I can.
Absolutely, because my IIT Guwahati also is very much interested, because of late we are into seriously about IKAS kind of. So this is one activity that was also indicated by the directors and then Ministry of Education also. So a great thing that I have today got this connectivity. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Aditya. It was great talking.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you all joining. And thank you, Anuja ji, for having me on.
Most welcome. It was good. It was good fun talking and understanding so many new things which were on the list की समझना है, लेकिन आपसे समझने मिल गया. बहुत अच्छी बात है.
हेलो, मैं मेरी तरफ से एक लास्ट क्वेश्चन है.
हाँ, बोलिए.
लोगों के बिहेवियर के बारे में, वहाँ के लोगों के बिहेवियर के बारे में क्या बताते हैं आदित्य? लाइक जैसे अपने यहाँ है, लोग डस्टबिन की हैबिट्स कम है लोगों में, जो गार्बेज निकलता है, तो वहाँ क्या परसेंटेज है कॉमन पीपल का, क्या से जो गार्बेज निकलता है,
हाँ,
तो वो किस तरह से
खराब है इधर भी. हर जगह खराब है लोगों का बिहेवियर. इधर यही है कि थोड़ा ज्यादा एनफोर्समेंट है, तो
वेरी ट्रू.
रहता है. बट
एक्चुअली यही तो
सब जगह लोगों का बिहेवियर खराब है इधर.
जी
सॉरी
जी, प्लीज आप बताइए.
नहीं, आपका क्वेश्चन पूरा कर दीजिए.
नहीं, वही था, बेसिक प्रॉब्लम यही है कि बिहेवियर्स के बारे में जानना था.
वही आई थिंक अल्टीमेटली कि जब तक लोग समझेंगे नहीं कि ये इम्पोर्टेंट है इन द इमीडिएट, जब भी लोग कुछ फेंकने जाते हैं, इधर भी नहीं देखते कि मैं करेक्ट बिन में डाल रहा हूँ कि नहीं. इधर एक्चुअली ज्यादा कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है. इधर सिर्फ ड्राई और वेट सेग्रीगेशन नहीं है, क्योंकि यू हैव टू सी if your material can be recycled locally, and there's like a lot of rules around what can be recycled and what cannot, and it differs in one municipality to the other. So बहुत complexity है इधर. तो I think unfortunately इधर के भी practices are not necessarily good. So I would not look at the US as a model by any means. One interesting model is Norway and Scandinavia, where they create a lot of good education from early on for children to think about waste as a resource, right? And one of our early endeavors at rePurpose was to try to get engagement for children in schools and government schools, particularly, to get them to see waste as a resource. And ultimately, I think it has to start as an early age program that people are seeing waste as a resource, and therefore will treat it with a little bit of care rather than, okay, it just needs to be thrown away. And ultimately, we have to get people to understand that there is no concept of away, right? Away means the reality is that it's going to end up polluting nature or end up hurting some sort of ecosystem. So I think that responsibility is very difficult, frankly. मुझे नहीं पता कोई solution इसके लिए outside of a mass consciousness change, which I think is very difficult. So I think the only way that we can address that is by treating adults as maybe too far gone, but at least starting with children and students.
सब लोग वही सोचते हैं कि बड़ों को समझाना तो बहुत मुश्किल हो गया है, बच्चों को ही समझाते हैं. एंड वेयर इज दैट अवे इज इवेंचुअली योर ओन प्लेट, वहीं पे आ रहा है सारा कुछ जो कचरा आप फेंक रहे हो. सो एब्सोल्युटली सब लोग उसी पे काम कर रहे हैं कि बच्चों को सिखाएं, कम से कम देयर इज सम होप फॉर द फ्यूचर दैट वे.
एंड आई वुड मेक वन मोर डिस्टिंक्शन, क्योंकि आपने यूएस के बारे में पूछा था. सॉरी, मुझे आपका नाम पूरा नहीं दिख रहा है, बट अखलाक. सो इधर एक और चीज है जो इंडिया से बहुत ज्यादा खराब है, कि इधर का कंज्यूमरिज्म बहुत ज्यादा बुरा है. लोग एक बार कुछ खरीदते हैं जो लाइक लेट्स से क्लोथ्स आइटम. इन इंडिया यू विल हैव, अगर मैंने ये शर्ट खरीदा है तो ये शर्ट को मैं मेरे भाई को दूंगा, छोटे भाई को दूंगा, छोटे भाई उसके छोटे भाई को देगा, फिर मे बी it as a rag, and then like ultimately we will, until it is fully tattered and not usable, we will not throw it away, right? Here in the US, unfortunately, the consumerism is so bad, they will buy a clothing article once or twice, wear it, and then throw it away into the dustbin. And so that, I think, mentality is a lot worse here, and I see that changing in India now, which is sad to see that consumerism mentality seeping in India as well. But I think our traditional practices were definitely a lot more practically minded, right? Like we would try to reuse the material in whatever way we can. Something like, let's say, a cloth article is an example, but even something like, let's say, bags, right? Like shopping bags. My mother still to this day will collect all of the shopping bags and keep them in one place in her house and then find some use for them someday. But I think over here, there's that mentality, which is very different.
Yeah, यहाँ पर भी इंडिया में भी वो use and throw is like is there everywhere, वो बिल्कुल फैल गया है. एंड वी हैव ऑल दी स्टोर्स जो चीप, जैसे वॉलमार्ट बेचता है वैसे यहाँ पर भी सारे स्टोर्स खुल गए हैं. पीपल जस्ट वांट फास्ट फैशन, 99 199. सो यू डोंट लुक एट द मटेरियल, यू डोंट लुक एट द क्वालिटी, यू जस्ट लुक एट what is right now. So
yeah,
हम
there's a great
वहां से भी सीख रहे हैं.
Aditya, I would like to, sorry, Madam Ji, I would like to state one more thing is that the main problem, especially in the South India or wherever the functions, when it happens, people start using the water bottles on the table of the lunch or the dinner, whatever they serve. Nowadays, there are no glasses. In fact, there are paper cups, whatever, but otherwise, the practice is all about the plastic bottles. Right. Your, half liter or 1 liter bottle, they keep on the tables, and that goes as a waste, huge waste getting done. So, what is your call about that? Is that
So it's again like a behavior change that has happened. Unfortunately, I think it's so much easier to do that than actually provide filtered water at an event, right? I agree, bringing your own bottle is a great tactic, but most people don't do that. For me, this whole concept of plastic water bottles in India is a little complex because there is no refill stations of clean filtered drinking water available for the public. You don't have clean drinking water necessarily easily available that you can carry around your water bottle and get it filtered. You have to go to a house, at your office, maybe to a restaurant, and ask for it to be filtered, to be refilled. And so it is complex. So it is something that we also struggle with when we host people, let's say, for example, from the US in India, and we take agents of companies and we ask them, okay, like, what would you want to do for water? We, of course, give them a reusable water bottle, but we struggle to find places where we can get them refilled on an easy way.
Yeah, refilling is an issue.
Challenging. I think ultimately, like if we can have better water filtration and water refill stations, then it would be a lot easier. But yeah, it's complex. And Fabian,
there was one there was one initiative taken by one of the madam called Tejasvi, who is the wife of an MP, he was earlier the minister also of chemicals and fertilizers, called Anant Kumar of some whatever party. And his wife Tejasvi, he is no more. His wife Tejasvi is so proactive in providing the glasses as a free rental basis to the function halls. So she advertises and states that, hey, this is available in my place. You can take it, but you have to.
And that's
make
a good
some
business
deposit.
model, by the way. Like that reusable cup model is a good business model for events, for festivals, for concerts.
It is not reusable cups. It is steel, cups. And she asked them to deposit back and then take the amount, full amount. She will not even take the rent. She's so kind of an NGO activity she's doing.
These kinds of veterinary banks are all over India. Some are charging money, some are free of cost, and all this. But despite all these facilities, the number of takers have not increased.
And they will question how clean is the glass, whether it is washed properly. See, earlier days during the functions, during the days of my other generation, senior generation, people were using only steel glasses, and it was cleaned properly, and then nobody were getting affected. Now the present day scenario, people will negate that and state that it will not be clean, it will not be washed properly, etc. So that is where all these glass, the plastic bottle things are accruing up like anything. Waste.
Yes, absolutely. The same problems are in every city, every country, but we have to have our creative solutions, because all solutions have to be different. The population is different, the habits are different, the eating style is different. So we'll say good day and bye to Aditya as he prepares.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry I do have to drop as
Sorry, Aditya.
So nice
We're taking too much time.
No. So nice to speak to you all, and please be in touch. We'd love to collaborate in any way we can. Thank you so much for hosting. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Madam Ji. Right. Namaste.
Good night, everyone. Take care.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.